Now, I don't know what legal counsel we have, or we don't have one here, but one of the legal counsels always wanted us to take the roll call. Why don't you just do that? That way we...
Sure, make it official. Good morning, everybody. So we'll have roll call. We'll start with Mr. Tomasula.
Here.
Mr. Nichols.
Here.
Mr. Rousseau.
Here.
Mr. Stahl.
Good morning.
Mr. Brady.
Here.
And myself. Here.
So, again, keep somebody happy. Okay. So, first thing we have is the approval of the February 17th, 22 minutes.
Oh, that's a typo. That should be 2023. I'm sorry.
Sorry?
That should be the 2023 minutes, not 2022.
Well, hey, I'm just reading.
My bad. My bad.
We can approve those too.
Hey, I'm just like somebody else that's out there. There's a teleprompter in front of me. I read what's on the teleprompter. Okay, so I will correct myself.
You go, I'll go second.
Yeah, Steve moved and I seconded.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's get down to some business that we're supposed to be doing. The Rita 22, is that correct?
That is correct. So the RETA 2022 true up. So this is RETA, the Regional Income Tax Agency. Every year, they'll go through and do a true up of what our actual cost should be for the year. So last year in 2022, they had a transaction count of 134,056 transactions for the city of Sandusky. They put that up against everyone else's transactions for the whole RETA community, all the different municipalities that they handle. And what that does for us, RETA, every dollar that they collect for us, they take 3% off the top. So then they do this true up in May, and this is where we ended up. Instead of the 3% collections, which was $453,967, it ended up only being $181,131. So our cost to RETA last year as a city was $181,131. So with the cost of doing business, I'm very thrilled with that cost. Basically, for 2022, that was less than we actually paid for 2021. So went down, I think like everyone else, RETA had problems keeping employees, so they were down on staffing and things like that. So that reduced the overall overhead for everyone and brought that number down a little bit. So we saw a refund of $272,836 to us from RETA in May. So I'm happy with those numbers. I know everyone doesn't always love.
People off the street.
Perfect. Welcome, Mr.
I'm
Monter.
sorry.
You're good. So not everyone loves the service from RETA, but I think for the price that we get of $181,000 to do our municipal income tax collection, it'd be hard to beat that price to staff that in-house, software, postage, everything. So just wanted to touch on that and let everyone know that was the true up for 2022.
I have a question. Long run, Rita. I never filled in my notes, and you probably answered the question, and I forgot to write it in. Did we did send the letters out, or we were going to send the letters out for past due for Rita?
So we did an actual subpoena program is what they call it. We did that in 2021. For 2022, they will still continue just to send letters, but not the actual subpoena program. So people are going to get the letters that said, you did not file, you need to file, and they'll be reached out to, but we're not doing the formal next step this year, which is, it costs more money, and it's not something that we need to do every year.
Okay.
So we can still collect those from people in the future years when we actually want to do a true subpoena program in the future.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions on that, or are we okay to move on to the June financials?
I don't think we need to make any motions or anything on that information. Next thing would be the June 23 financials.
So June 2023 financials, you guys have all been sent this previously, but I thought I'd just go over the highlights of the charts. Looking at the revenue for June of 2023 on this chart, you'll see the blue line depicts our income tax revenue. You'll see that we're up in income tax revenue of about $250,000 compared to where we were this time last year. Admissions tax, you're going to see quite a bit of an increase, it's about $1.2 million. And that's due not only to the 8% collection rate that we increased last year, but that is also due to the collection. The collection is now due at the time of admittance, the following month.
See, I know.
Sorry, time of collection.
They moved that, you guys moved that up to how you pay it.
Correct. So yeah, so some of our increase this year here, right, it's timing, right? It's instead of being recognized over the course of the year, it's upon sale of the product. So you get your money earlier, which I think is better for us.
It's great. Yeah, I'm very happy. Because typically, we wouldn't see any of our large revenue for admissions tax until like July, middle of the year. And we've already moved forward on some of our projects and things like that. So it's nice to kind of have that.
Did they do it daily?
We do it.
How often do we pay every, what, 25th
yeah.
of the month?
Okay.
But for anything that was sold for that given month, like before public information, right, we used to sold a $100 pass right in January. City wouldn't have gotten that until those people visited throughout the year. Right now, you get your 8% up front. So it's just,
Which we appreciate.
Clearer for you, I'm assuming, too, right? Easier?
nah.
No?
Yeah.
Still trying to help you out.
It's okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. I'm happy to answer questions as we go through any of this. Please stop me at any time. The green bar here depicts our total general fund revenue. So you can see June of last year, we were at $11.2 million. This year, we're just over $14 million. Like we just talked about, the admissions tax is a big contributor to that. We also have, smaller increases, but still increases in the lodging tax and admissions tax. This year, for interest income, we're over $500,000 more this year than what we saw last year. So as we've all seen the cost of inflation and everything, we now are seeing higher interest rates. And with our COVID money that we have sitting there, we are earning interest, which is totally legal. So we are earning interest on that money until it is spent. So that is the real reason that we see such a large increase in the income tax. I'm sorry, the interest income. Moving on through the expenses, here's the expenses for the top 5 departments. That gray line, you'll see it jump out at you, that's our administrative support. And those dollars are where you see the transfer dollars, whether they were for the issue 8 promises, the new admissions and parking tax money, or other commitments for pensions, transit, and things like that. All of those are seen through the administrative support department. The rest of those, police and fire, are pretty consistent. They're usually neck and neck for expenditures. The green line there is our horticulture and public realm department, and then yellow line is our municipal court. Expenses by category, the blue line at top is your wages and fringe benefits. You'll see June of this year, we're $6.8 million, and that is still less than where we were in 2018 and 2019. Obviously, with COVID happening in 2020, we saw a reduction in our force, so also going along with that, we'll see a reduction in our wages and our fringe benefits. But it's good to see that we're still underneath the 2018 and 2019 numbers. I like that. We do still have some open positions. We're going to be fully staffed, it looks like, in the fire department. We still have some openings in the police department. Some city manager positions. We've got some things to fill, but that's where we're at for the moment. Here's the total general fund expenditures. We're at $14.1 million, and this is about 48% of what we budgeted to expend for the year, and we're halfway through the year. So nothing alarming here. Everything looks to be in good order. And then the cash balance here, you'll see that we ended June at $5.8 million, really similar to where we were this time last year. But if you look historically, prior to issue 8 coming into play, our general fund balance, hit $3 million. So we're in a good spot. We want to target to be between 15 and 20% of our annual expenditures. So somewhere between $4.5 and $5.9 million. And that's where we sit currently. And here is the breakdown of the full-time employees. We're at 244 full-time employees, the largest being our police and fire departments. And like I said previously, we're still trying to actively recruit some more police officers, and they're doing testing and recruiting there for that department.
Do we have any unusual expenditures on the train tracks between now and the end of the year? I mean, we're past any, I looked at them down, but I mean, other than what the commission would end up doing, but payrolls were steady as, and my favorite fund, okay? Do we have any major retirements? It seems like we're all getting older, at least I am.
I was thinking that, yeah.
We do always have some separations. The payroll stabilization fund does have a balance of $403,000 in it currently. Year-to-date, we've paid out about $186,000. That will be a journal entry that we do at the end of the year. Now, we do have our law director who did just announce he's leaving, so, you know, there'll be a little bit of a payout there. But as far as more retirements this year, I'm not expecting a lot. Usually, you know, that happens when the pension system does something and changes something, and then we'll see a kind of a mass exit. But at this point, I don't anticipate a lot of departures this year. Nothing unusual at the moment. I guess I do have a note for income tax. When I'm looking at the numbers for June of last year compared to June of this year, the areas that we're seeing the increases in the net profit returns and the individual returns. It's about $408,000 that were up compared to last year, and $130,000 of that is our individual income tax returns, and then net profit is about $280,000 is where that's coming from.
Interest income has got to be doing better this year than it was last year. I didn't look at that specific number, but
I want to say we were at $90,000. Yeah, we were $94,000 of interest income last year, and right now, at the end of June, we had $640,000. So big difference.
slight difference.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all the good and bad reasons.
Yep. Does anyone have any questions on the June financials?
Anybody in the committee have, it's nice to sit here. I think depending upon when you hire the next city manager, I think this is gonna be my 6th or 7th city manager that I've gone through. It's nice last few years to have positive. We can't sit in our hands, but I think the commission has done a very good job of.
Mr. Chairman, I think that you're absolutely right, and I would have to say that the last 9 months in our transition to a new city manager, with Mr. Orzak as our interim city manager, we certainly have not been sitting on our hands. I think we're going at almost exactly the same speed that we have for the last 9 years. We have so many things in the queue right now on economic development that I'm not sure that our bandwidth will allow us anymore. We have things lying in front of us such as streetscape. We have a hotel with the Longers on the Jackson Street parking lot. We have the large project of Battery Park, and all those things have come to fruition after Mr. Webster has left. So the purpose of my narrative is to say how pleased every commissioner is with our interim city manager, that I don't believe we've lost a step with John Orzak in place. And that is not giving us a free pass to slow down the process of hiring a permanent city manager. That process was slowed considerably by the death of the principal person that was conducting that search.
Staff that we have is phenomenal.
Phenomenal, no question. And these are the kind of, these are the kind of situations that you find out how good staff really is. It's easy to be successful when things are going great, but when you're thrown into the breach, you find out who can get it done and who can't. I think we have about 245 employees that are getting it done every day. So I'm thrilled with their progress, and I'm thrilled with our interim city manager's progress too. And boy, all I can say is we're not in a hurry to get this done because we certainly want to get it right. But I think that's going to happen in the next week, 10 days is my timeline.
Any other comments or questions? Yeah. I would accept a motion to approve the financial statement for June
I'll make the motion.
23. I want to make sure I get my,
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
second.
Okay.
Is that one? We're just going to say, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
What mall director wants it? So,
We'll see what the next one wants.
okay. Michelle and I have had just some brief conversations. It's time to put an RFP out for our 23, 27 audit. It's the period that we put out, okay? We don't do it year by year. Are there RFPs in there? Let's see.
So we do not have the RFPs back. So the state of Ohio, and we do have Brad Zurich here from the state auditor's office, and he'll talk to you guys later about where we're at with the 2022 audit. But the state of Ohio has released us for years 2023 through 2027 for the state audit. They have been our auditors for the last 2 years. They've decided they can let us go. They want to part ways. So we're going through the RFP process currently. There's a pre-proposal meeting next Tuesday, and then the final proposals are not due back until August 2nd. There are 6 firms that were invited to participate: Charles and Harrison Associates, Perry and Associates, Clifton Larson Allen LLP, Clark Schaefer Hackett and Company, Ray and Associates, and James Zupka. So we do have 6 firms that showed interest, and they were invited to submit proposals, and so we'll be going through that process in August.
And they all check out to be quality firms. And nobody has, at least your boss did not have any problems with any of the names.
Correct. And this is a process that the state kind of initiates. They go through it, and they're the ones that actually send out the information. So it's been vetted.
Mr. Chairman, is there any advantage to, if everything's equal, to Ray and Associates because they really know the city? It's not like they have to.
Well, Michelle and I had that conversation, and
So I have a good question today.
you have a great question today. When I first thought about that, I'm thinking, okay, they were doing some work on our financial statement, but the way I look at the standards, they've got 2 separate divisions. They can do audit, and then they can still do they're not auditing their own work. They've got 2 separate divisions. Do you agree with what I found? Okay, and so.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think it'd be any different than, like, we have LGS, our local government services, they used to do your
Right.
conversion.
Yes.
We're separate, there's independent standards that you have to meet as part of that, so I'm sure they go through the process of it.
That's, Mr. Stahl, is one of the reasons when Michelle called, do we put them on? And I mean, they had a mistake last year. Any firm that says they didn't make a mistake, they're lying, okay? But they do know us. I think and again, we have to wait for the RFPs to come back for dollars. But all things being equal, I think they would be an excellent fit to continue on. But again, that's.
Yeah, the numbers are what the numbers are, just that they have a real sense of how the city operates and our little idiosyncrasies. And
Again, we need to do our due diligence and make sure that, prices.
got it.
Anybody have any questions on how I came or didn't come up with?
Thank you.
Okay. We got to do things a little backwards today. Public participation. Sure.
I just have two concerns real quick. I noticed here in the water and sewers, anybody concerned about this? I mean, there's red flags all over on this. Looking at the water and sewer with the
Get to it.
outstanding encumbrances included in, we're coming up with a shortfall for the last 6 months. The last 6 months, we're in a shortfall here. This doesn't look good, even with the cost of the encumbrances, cost figured in here. You're still coming up short, millions of dollars here.
Obviously with Aaron not being here,
Would you like me to address it?
do we have, obviously, we're going to have to bond some things out. You and I have talked about bond things, but we've got some notes. And does he have anything, any grants coming in or?
That's exactly what it is. So on the water and sewer fund, what Ms. Johnson's referring to, you'll see unexpended balance, outstanding encumbrances, and an ending balance. When you look at the ending balance, you're going to see a negative amount. That is because, especially like on the sewer fund, we have a high-rate treatment and UV project. It's a $30 million project. So, you know, it's been through the commission, it's been blessed, but there's a loan and grant that's tied to that. But until we have the expenditure, you won't see that revenue coming back in. So there is no way that, you know, we can operate that much in the red. It looks like that on paper only because as soon as the expenditure hits, the revenue hits at the same time. So the revenue and expenditures are adjusted. We're not overspending, but when you're looking at just our cash balance and what we have on promises going out, you're going to see a negative amount. This does not include the expected revenue. So it looks alarming, but we do have the revenue coming back in. On the water side, we have a large project right now on Perkins Avenue, as you were talking about construction earlier. So Perkins Avenue, and that was a water line replacement project. So we have loans and grants on that project. As soon as we have the expenditures, it doesn't even, the cash doesn't really even flow through us. You know, the contractor's paid directly, but we just have to make the book entry on our side.
We're also on a cash basis, so we wouldn't accrue what to be coming back in or anything, so it is what it is until the cash comes.
Correct. Correct.
So maybe we should have another column here for expected revenue to cover this?
I have a statement of cash position that monitors kind of all of this, but yes, I mean,
For the public to understand this, to have a separate column here with expected revenue to cover all of that. I mean, you know it, but the public doesn't.
Sure.
This
I mean,
looks bad to the public.
sure. And I can tell you, you know, looking back, and I know this was changed since I've come on board, it wasn't always that all the outstanding encumbrances, they weren't always doing the encumbrances when they came through commission. So it's just been a change in the way of doing business. I like to see what I have, everything that I have promised, I'm going to show, so I know how much has been promised and going through, you know, water fund, sewer fund, capital fund, whatever it's going to be. So that'll be depicted. I can look at that and see if we can do something to make it easier to read so you understand what's going on.
Because it says ending balance, a minus 9,584,000, and the water was 4,811,000 about. So that's where we are on that. That doesn't look good. I think if you had a separate column there for revenue, that would help for the public to understand that. Okay, next one is.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Rusatz and I were just talking, would a footnote just cover that without going to a lot of extra work, an asterisk and a footnote?
As opposed to another column, just a disclosure
Maybe right
for each one of the
underneath or
funds.
something. Yeah.
Footnote, whatever you wish to call it, okay? And I think that would help explain what Michelle.
Whatever you
said.
need to do to explain this better to the public. Okay, so my second one real fast here is the MOU that we signed for Cedar Point. We promised a lot of projects to Cedar Point in exchange for additional revenue that they promised us. Now, I'm concerned that we might be holding the bag on a lot of projects and indebtedness because maybe Cedar Point may not be able to deliver on their revenue that they promised us. They've taken $5 off their tickets already. The traffic looks like it appears to be down. I mean, there's nothing going over the Butler Street ramp. There's hardly anything coming in on 250. I don't have to plan my day around Cedar Point traffic anymore. So I don't know what's happening there, whether we should be getting some truthfulness from Cedar Point on their admission or what's going on there. But before we sign a legit contract with them, I know this is an MOU that can be negotiated, but before we sign a legit contract with them, we need to know just how many people are coming over there to Cedar Point and how much this $5 they took $5 off their tickets. So how much has the city calculated how much that's going to hurt us in revenue?
Mr. Chairman, as a Cedar Point resident, I will tell you, they've learned an awesome lesson in the last 3 years. Mr. Brady and I got stopped by the traffic a couple of years ago and couldn't get over. I'm going to tell you, they got it down to a science on how to get people in there. As a resident, when that road would be backed up for hours on end to get through there, if you're going through the point, forget it. They got it down to a science on how to get people in there, spend money in the park instead of sitting in the parking lot or in the streets coming in.
Well, on the agenda for Monday, we have we're going to fix that Butler Street part there for Cedar Point, and they're going down to 2 lanes. So what does that tell you? From 4 lanes down to 2 lanes?
Sharon, I'm going to tell you, they've got 13 to 15 booths open full tilt all day long, and I'll tell you, the people get in, and it works. Right, Dick?
I think there's Mr. Chairman, I think there's a logical explanation to the Butler Street, being brought down to 2 lanes. People are finding different ways to get into the city. It's never been busier traffic coming from the east and coming in Cleveland Road. They have to divert people from going down the chaussee because it clogs up. The traffic patterns, Sharon, change. They change because of demographics. They change because of GPS. The fact that traffic is not backed up to the turnpike like it was when I was a very young man a lot of years ago is not at all surprising to me. And for us, or for this finance committee, to sit here and predict how a publicly traded company is doing month to month is ludicrous. That's not our position. I would submit that you say that we're holding a bag. I think the bag we're holding is full of money. And the bag that we're holding represented $9.5 million that Cedar Fair put into our coffers last year. I'm not going to get into predictions, but if I did get into predictions, I would say that we're going to surpass that amount this year. Now, if I'm wrong, I'll be wrong. But the reality is that we've not finalized the commitments on the projects that we're sharing that income, that tax revenue on. We've not finalized those, but we are holding those dollars. We still have the dollars, that we've collected from them.
I'm saying Cedar Point needs to be honest with the city commission. You're going to make a big deal like that. They better
Sharon,
have a disclosure.
To indicate that Cedar Fair is anything other than honest is a total injustice to say that.
Cedar Fair.
Because
I've been trained.
we missed a whole season over COVID. This can happen again. This country is so screwed up. These things can happen again, and we're left holding the bag on the debt that we did these projects for Cedar Point. We're going to be responsible to pay that back, not Cedar Point. So I'm just saying, be cautious about those things that you promised out, that they can't deliver if they don't have that revenue.
Okay. Obviously, I'm getting ready to get on and sign off so we can do our earnings report and Sylvester. You have reported out, what, first
Quarter only. So
quarter only?
Another couple of weeks.
That's right, you guys don't,
Yep.
okay,
You don't give guidance and
But
interim, yes.
Everything's a big secret with Cedar Point. You don't know how many people they took in for the year. Nothing. You don't,
Yeah,
they won't share it.
we legally can't.
Right.
We would violate SEC laws.
Okay, then we've got a big problem in making a contract with you guys then. That's not right.
If I may,
Again, I don't want you to go to jail. You look terrible in stripes, okay?
And
But
orange.
obviously, if there is something awry, you have to report that out even before earnings. In other
Right,
words, if
right.
some material
Mr. Chairman,
thing is happening.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I don't think it's appropriate for us to be discussing Cedar Point's business as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Mrs. Johnson expressed her opinion, and so we received that, and so we need to move on.
But
Move on with caution.
how about cautiously optimistic? I'm optimistic that it's going to be good, and we'll leave it at that. That's my personal opinion.
We're in a recession. That's optimistic.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say one thing. We're awful lucky to have Cedar Point I believe we're very lucky to have Cedar Point as a partner. Your words are noted. I still say we're very lucky to have Cedar Point. Any further discussion, I don't believe that this committee is
First of all, I
appropriate.
don't want to go anything further because I don't want anything to come back on Steve that he may inadvertently said something because, those letters you get are really nasty. Not the letters from Cedar, but
And I don't know how appropriate it is for Cedar Point to be sitting on the finance committee when we're doing contracts with them.
we have always had somebody from Cedar Point on our finance committee.
It was started my first go-around on the city commission. We appointed them that way. We all knew what was going and we could all move forward together and be transparent as best as legally possible. We have done that. And I'd say this conversation is complete.
Okay, done. Do you have anything else, Sharon?
No.
Okay. With that, I am going to have to ask everybody, first of all, I need a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of having a conversation with the auditors pursuant to ORC 121.22D, parentheses 2, which basically our audit is not complete yet. Will not be complete until September. The auditors will be back with a completed audit, but they have gone to a certain point and wish to speak to the finance committee.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, you got to go around and,
sure, we'll do roll call. Ms. Twine?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas Lula?
Yes.
Mr. Montre?
yes,
Mr. Nichols?
yes.
Mr. Rousseau?
Yes.
Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
And Mr. Brady?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
Okay, we are now in executive session.